Oh my God, yeah, the Lord have mercy. Amazonia, rise up, my people, rise up, Amazonia, rise up, my people, rise up now. Rise up in the morning, rise up in the night, rise up every day, stand up for your right. Rise up in the palace, rise up in the school, rise up in the church, rise up everywhere. There is no government that go with the people. The people makes the government, and the government needs the people. And there is no water that can pull off the fire. Fire is burning, burning down the system. Amazonia, rise up, my people, rise up now. We got to rise up, rise up now. See, freedom is knocking at the door. Freedom is knocking at the door. Freedom to get a job, freedom to go to school, freedom to come back home. But you baby, she let me tell them now. Freedom to get a job, freedom to go to school, yeah. Freedom to come back home. Better Medicare system, and there is no government that can win the people now. The people are the government, and the government needs the people. And there is no water that can put out the fire. Fire is burning, burning down the system. Amazonia, rise up, you fall no more. You got to rise up, rise up, rise up. Everybody rise up and stand for your rights. Rise up and shine your light. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Zion's train is coming. Zion's train is coming. Don't be left behind. We're moving to Boya.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. Today, history is made. As you are aware, for over 3 days, stakeholders representing the different constituencies of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia gathered from all corners of the world. Many traveled into Washington to meet with the head of state, the president, to deliberate the future of Ambazonia as we prosecute the senseless war that was declared against us on the 30th of November 2025. In a few minutes' time, we'll be bringing the Speaker of the House, who happens to double as the chair of the Ambazonia Strategic Constituent Assembly of 2025 that just held in Washington, D.C. She will be presenting to us tonight and to the world, especially to those who did not participate, the resolutions after deliberations, what was the conclusion. And I know you, like myself, were waiting to see what has been decided and how the dynamics of our liberation movement will be changed right after now. Without any waste of time, I'll be bringing the Speaker of the House to present this to us. But let me give a rundown of this evening. We are anticipating before 9 p.m. Ambazonia time to bring the address of the president to the nation. So a couple of things will happen. First of all, it's September 30th like never before. It ends with a strategic constituent assembly, a meeting that is redefining how we go about business. So that will be the first thing for tonight, the presentation. Right after that, we'll move into the newsroom to find out what's happening around the world. The newsroom has been positioned to do some comparative analysis with the dynamics and politics of what is happening. We'll be listening to the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, the chairperson for the Judiciary Commission, Barrister Mbesia, that will break down some of these resolutions that will be presented this evening for our common man understanding. Right after that, we'll bring some happenings at the home front today so that we can give the pathway for the president to address the nation. So we are going to wait until midnight. So the night is long. We'll have these same individuals who join us on the post analysis. We have the president's speech that will also be, we will be waiting for the Portuguese translation on a standby. Michel Bientong, as always, is also on a standby to give to us the French translation. Mami Manka is giving to us the Pidgin translation. We're hoping this time to have Spanish translation and also the Arabic translation. All of these translation of the president's speech will be followed with analysis, and these members of government are made to understand that there is also the presidential dinner. So those who traveled from far and near to deliberate these 3 days are having a dinner with the president. Will be giving you some of the images. Like I said, without any waste of your time, I'm bringing the chair of the House to present to us the resolutions of this highly anticipated gathering by stakeholders of Ambazonia. See you right after that. Madam Speaker, the floor is yours.
Director Paddy, thank you. Is my sound check good enough? Is the sound good enough?
Yes, ma, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Fellow Ambazonians, I want to just take this opportunity as the chair of the ASCA strategic conference that we held, or we are holding, because today is the last day, in Washington, D.C. vicinity 2025. I want to read the resolutions of our hard work that was done over the past few days. So let me go directly into that. And right after that, I will have another statement to make after I complete the resolutions that were voted on. So just hold tight. Thank you for listening. We, the members of the Constituent Assembly of the People of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, convened in Washington, D.C. on September the 27th through the 30th of 2025, reaffirmed President Ikome Samuel Sako's mandate for stability and continuity as the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the government of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia in exile, as was requested by stakeholders and the people. Reaffirm our commitment to the self-determination, liberty, and dignity of the Ambazonian people. Recalling the Constitution, orders in Council, and its amendments. Mindful of the challenges faced in advancing the struggle, mindful that the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia meets all the criteria of the Montevideo Declaration of 1933 regarding the characteristics that qualified her for statehood, mindful of the need for a blueprint for the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia, resolved to move the Southern Cameroon Ambazonia forward as follows. Number one, adopt the Washington resolutions on targeted constitutional renewal 2025. Number two, declare all laws of La République du Cameroun dating from 1961 to the present and beyond to be non-binding on the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia. Number three, affirm that citizens of the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia have the right to dual citizenship. Number four, authorize the government of the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia in exile to form a commission to draft specific laws pertaining to citizenship and table them before the House of Assembly for ratification and approval. Number five, empower the president to appoint country and regional representatives to serve as ambassadors reporting to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Number six, empower the president and the government of the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia in exile to consult experts and explore best practices to craft national policies regarding subsection 1, civil societies, subsection 2, mining, manufacturing and energy, subsection 3, education, subsection 4, public health, subsection 5, town planning, road infrastructure, and public safety. Subsection 6, agriculture. Subsection 7, tourism. Subsection 8, art, culture, and entertainment. Number 7, empower the president to reorganize the cabinet as he deems appropriate and to replace all enablers and distractors to move Ambazonian beyond the struggle and begin executing the blueprint of the nation. Number 8, that the president of the government of the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia in exile, as was done with his predecessor, President Siseko Ayoktabe, should be placed on a steady token remuneration of a set amount of dollar to be determined for his 24/7 sacrifices and services to the people, which deprived him of personal security, hence the inability of gainful employment and income earning power. Number 9, that the Ambazonia National Self-Defense Council, ANSC, should be allocated a portion, dollar amount, or percentage of the federal, county, and etc. draft for the emergency humanitarian upkeep of the Amazonia State Army, ASA. Number 10, uphold the vote of no confidence passed on December 5th, 2024 by county coordinators of Amazonia against the county coordinator of Ngokutunja and support his replacement in order to rebuild the county. This measure serves as a precedent for future county disruption by county leadership. With those being read, the Secretariat and Coordination Committee was Professor Ayim Martin, Professor Bridget Tabor, Dr. Martin Mongwa, and Dr. Winifred Lubadi that helped in the Secretariat, and with a whole host of team of committee members that worked to get this in place, and the delegates. With that said, there is one more important thing, and it's from the presidency. There is one aspect of our meeting at this conference that does not get public deliberation, and that deals with the Amazonia Self-Defense Army. So, the deliberations happened in private, and, or let me say, in some privacy and in a secured manner. Those have been presented what they resolved and came up as proposals to and with the president. They have been sent to me. One, as the chair of the ASCA conference, as well as the Speaker of the House of Assembly. But let me give you a headline, because this will be tabled to the House of Assembly as a bill so that it can be promulgated and looked into in details. For you, our ASA, there is something already worked out for rehabilitation during and post the struggle. Resettlement, not just for you, but that would also be extended to our refugees, but especially for the Amazonia self-defense combatants and their families. You have not been forgotten. There is an extensive write-up bill placed on the table that we will not put in the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for that exceptional presentation right there. We are delighted. Before we bring the analyst, Dr. Mungwa Barrister Mbesia, to explain in details the significance of some of these resolutions, the implication, legal implication, the historical meanings or scientific understanding of them. We would like to move into the newsroom to find out what is happening there. I would like to have Dr. Tata collaborate with Dr. Mungwa. We are already collaborating with Barrister Mbesia. To collaborate with Dr. Mungwa to ensure that he's connected. So by the time the newsroom is done, we will be able to get the analysis from the studio there in Washington with you people and get the legal perspective of what this event really meant. That will begin just right after this break.
It's another year and another Independence Day for a people at war. Once again, the time has come for Ambazonians across the globe to unite and celebrate their independence on October 1st. A day of pride, hope, and renewed purpose is upon us.
As we mark this significant occasion with cultural representations, dances, military parades from the Amazonian State Army, all eyes will turn to the leader of the revolution.
Fellow Amazonians, patriotic diasporas, I salute all of you gathered around our flag on this national day, our Independence Day.
This genocidal war declared on us by the 90-year-old dictator Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2017 is raging.
President Samuel Ikome Sako on the eve of Independence Day. Join us on September 30th at 8 p.m. as President Samuel Ikome Sako addresses the nation.
Permit me to say Happy Independence Day to you all, Amazonians. We all rose as one nation to assert the independence of our beloved country, Amazonia.
In these trying times, amidst conflict with La République du Cameroon, President Sako's words are expected to spark hope and chart a new direction.
Set your face on the prize. Look unto Buea, the historic, beautiful capital of our great nation. Truth and justice shall prevail.
While the date for the war to end remains uncertain, brace yourselves for a roadmap towards a smarter prosecution of our liberation movement, a vision full of promise and determined leadership. Prepare to be inspired as we honor our journey and look forward to a brighter future.
To remind the world of our genocide and the injustice done to us as a nation by France and the complicit international community. Share our story with passion and courage, knowing that no one feels our pain more than we do, and no one knows our story more than those who have lived it, us. Let us fight as one man.
Tune in live across all multimedia platforms and catch this monumental speech only on your favorite TV channel. Don't miss this pivotal moment. Together, let's reignite the spirit of Amazonia.
This Independence Day, immerse yourself in the words of our leader. Be part of history in the making.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and the Speaker of the House of Assembly and the ASCA, who is also the Speaker of Ambazonians at this point. Dear Ambazonians, history has been made. History has been made, and history is also unfolding before our very eyes. After 3 days of intense deliberation, unity, and what we can tag as unwavering commitment, our county chairs and representatives, under the guidance of the Speaker of the House and the Chair of the ASCA, have laid the foundation for a decisive moment in the journey of revolution. Together, they have crafted a clear framework and a very powerful blueprint that will shape how this revolution and this resolution and how it concludes on the collective part forward in defining the Ambazonian journey. I must tell you, the ASCA was not just a meeting, it was a turning point. As we all await the highly anticipated address from the President, let us turn our attention to the global stage while we join Tabitha Ako as she brings us the latest from around the world, and following that, prepare for insightful reflection in our special editorial segment on the diplomacy and what it involves with TESMAT. Stay with us because history has been made, and the interesting part is that you are part of it.
It's another year and another Independence Day for a people at war. Once again, the time has come for Ambazonians across the globe to unite and celebrate their independence on October 1st. A day of pride, hope, and renewed purpose is upon us.
As we mark this significant occasion with cultural representations, dances, military parades from the Amazonian State Army, all eyes will turn to the leader of the revolution.
Fellow Ambazonians, patriotic diasporans, I salute all of you gathered around our flag on this national day, our Independence Day.
This genocidal war declared on us by the 90-year-old dictator Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2017 is raging.
President Samuel Ikome Sako on the eve of Independence Day. Join us on September 30th at 8 p.m. as President Samuel Ikome Sako addresses the nation.
Permit me to say Happy Independence Day to you all, Ambazonians. We all rose as one nation to assert the independence of our beloved country, Ambazonia.
In these trying times, amidst conflict with La République du Cameroon, President Sako's words are expected to spark hope and chart a new direction.
Set your face on the prize. Look unto Buea, the historic, beautiful capital of our great nation. Truth and justice shall prevail.
While the date for the war to end remains uncertain, brace yourselves for a roadmap towards a smarter prosecution of our liberation movement, a vision full of promise and determined leadership. Prepare to be inspired as we honor our journey and look forward to a brighter future.
To remind the world of our genocide and the injustice done to us as a nation by France and the complicit international community. Share our story with passion and courage, knowing that no one feels our pain more than we do, and no one knows our story more than those who have lived it, us. Let us fight as one man.
Tune in live across all multimedia platforms and catch this monumental speech only on your favorite TV channel. Don't miss this pivotal moment. Together, let's reignite the spirit of Ambazonia.
This Independence Day, immerse yourself in the words of our leader. Be part of history in the making.
As global attention remains fixed on Gaza, where diplomacy dominates amid United States and Israeli rejection of a two-state solution, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, fresh from a fiery United Nations General Assembly speech, met United States President Donald Trump to discuss the Palestinian situation and hostage releases. Now, against this backdrop, Ambazonia marked its fourth day of the Strategic Constituent Assembly, hailed as a monumental step in charting leadership and the future of its struggle for self-determination. Now, the move comes as colonial French Cameroon advances toward elections that Ambazonians dismiss as irrelevant. Now, if Gaza commands the world's diplomatic stage, why does Ambazonians' own quest for recognition seems even overshadowed? Ambazonian is charting the course, and we can see that from the Strategic Assembly. Welcome to Global News. I am Thabita Akro. United States President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday endorsed a U.S.-drafted peace plan aimed at ending the nearly two-year Gaza war, but its success hinges on whether Hamas accepts the terms. The White House released a 20-point proposal that calls for an immediate ceasefire, a staged Israeli withdrawal, a hostage prisoner exchange, Hamas disarmament, and the establishment of an international transitional authority to govern Gaza. Let's take a look.
It's a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East, and let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace.
President Donald Trump described the initiative as the closest step yet to securing peace. Netanyahu said the plan aligns with Israel's war objectives by securing hostage releases and dismantling Hamas' military capacity. Let's take a look.
Which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions.
Now, Hamas, however, was absent from the Washington talks. Officials said the force saw the plan through media reports before it was shared by mediators Qatar and Egypt. The group has promised to review it, but has previously rejected demands for disarmament, raising doubts about the proposal's viability. Meanwhile, we see that the plan proposes Gaza's governance by a technocratic Palestinian committee under an international board of peace, chaired by President Trump, including a former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Now, it offers only a limited role for the Palestinian Authority to sticking point for both Israel and Palestinians. Now, we see that Netanyahu faces pressure from families of Israeli hostages and a war-weary public to secure an agreement, just as we've seen, while far-right members of his coalition warn against concessions. Trump, meanwhile, is seeking a foreign policy breakthrough after the United States allies at the United Nations recognized Palestinian statehood last week, now in defiance of Washington and Jerusalem, which is Israel. Now, while we look at this situation, let's talk about Gaza. The Gaza conflict has killed more than 66,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza health officials, and left much of the territory in ruins. Israel launched a new offensive this month, pledging to eliminate Hamas from its remaining strongholds. And while we look at the situation in Gaza, we also look at the situation of the hostages still held by Hamas. Analysts say the U.S. plan could mark progress, but warn that without Hamas participation and a credible path toward Palestinian statehood, the agreement risks collapse. That's the situation right there, but we hope that the coming days will definitely get a focus or even a breakthrough. Now, moving over to North Korea. In North Korea declared at the United Nations General Assembly that it will never abandon its nuclear arsenal, describing international demands for denuclearization as a threat to its sovereignty and survival. Vice Foreign Minister Kim Sung-young, the first senior North Korean envoy to address the assembly since 2018, said Pyongyang's nuclear weapons remain its ultimate guarantee for security. The speech underscored how far the country remains from re-engaging in arms control talks despite years of sanctions and repeated overtures by Washington. Let's take a look.
We have stipulated nuclear in our Constitution as a sacred and absolute thing that can never be touched upon and tampered with. Imposition of denuclearization on the DPRK is tantamount to demanding it to surrender sovereignty and the right to existence and violate the Constitution. We will never give up sovereignty, abandon the right to existence, and violate the Constitution. The policy line of a Comrade President of the State Affairs represents our state law, and we will defend the state law without fear. We will never give up nuclear, which is our state law, national policy, and sovereign power, as well as the right to existence. Under any circumstances, we will never walk away from this position.
North Korea has been under United Nations sanctions since 2006 over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Yet, despite economic pressure, Pyongyang insists its arsenal deters U.S. aggression and ensures balance on the Korean peninsula. Now, the situation and the question right here is whether these weapons provide stability or lock the region into a permanent crisis. United States President Donald Trump, who returned to office in January, has publicly called for another summit with Kim Jong-un this year. But North Korea has ignored those invitations, raising doubts about whether personal diplomacy can succeed where sanctions and pressure have failed. Now, could Washington's approach shift if talks remain stalled, like we are seeing right here? North Korea's envoy stressed that the nuclear program is enshrined in national law and cannot be bargained away in exchange for sanctions relief. Now, analysts say this position raises a dilemma. If denuclearization is off the table, what path remains for dialogue? And how should the international community respond to as states openly define Security Council resolutions? We see that Russia and China have urged easing sanctions, arguing humanitarian needs and renewed talks justify a softer approach. Moscow has also deepened military and diplomatic ties with Pyongyang since 2022 invasion of Ukraine, creating also an emerging bloc of states challenging Western influence. Now, does this growing partnership weaken the effectiveness of United Nations measures designed to contain North Korea's weapons program? A critical question. We see that his speech right there highlights the widening divide at the United Nations over how to deal with Pyongyang between those who insist pressure must continue and those who see engagement as the only realistic option. Whether compromise or confrontation prevails. Could this shape the security landscape of Northeast Asia for years to come? Now, not to dwell much on that, let's move over to Ambazonia from the home front. In Ambazonia, the start of Cameroon's presidential campaign on September 27 has been met with rejection in southern Cameroon, where Ambazonian leaders maintain that the election has no legitimacy in the Ambazonian territory. For many in the northwest and southwest, the vote is seen as a distraction from their demand for self-determination after nearly a decade of armed conflict. Now, in Bamenda, Social Democratic Front candidate Joshua Osei attempted to launch his campaign despite the imposed lockdown. While he framed himself as the voice of the Ambazonian community, Ambazonian activists argue that participation in the election undermines the independence struggle. For them, the ballot cannot replace the right to sovereignty. Meanwhile, President Paul Biya's absence from the campaign trail further fuels the claims that Yaoundé has lost touch with the realities of the conflict. After 43 solid years in power, his continued candidacy is seen by Ambazonians as proof of a system resistant to change and blind to the humanitarian toll of the crisis and the struggles. For Ambazonians, the central question remains, how can a state that has allegedly waged war, displaced thousands, and shut down schools in their homeland claim to offer credible elections there? Instead, Ambazonian leaders insist that only internationally mediated dialogue on independence, not any other contested vote, can resolve this deepest political crisis going on. Now, this is the situation right here. We move over to Madagascar. In Madagascar, a protest has been on. Madagascar's president, Andry Rajoelina, on Monday dissolved his government in an attempt to quell escalating youth-led protests over crippling water and electricity shortages. The crisis has sparked violent clashes that the United Nations says have left at least 22 people dead and more than 100 injured, marking the biggest challenge to Rajoelina's rule in years. Now we see that the demonstrations, now in their third day, were triggered by rolling blackouts and water cuts lasting over 12 hours. Inspired by Gen Z protest movement in Kenya and Nepal, Malagasy youth have mobilized both online and on the streets, making the unrest the largest the Indian Ocean island has witnessed in over a decade. Now, in a televised address, Rajoelina acknowledged the grievances, apologized for government failures, and pledged support for businesses hit by looting. But the conciliatory tone did little to calm tensions. The United Nations Human Rights Office confirmed that casualties stemmed from both security force crackdowns and opportunist looting by criminal gangs. Madagascar's foreign ministry rejected those figures, accusing the United Nations of spreading rumors and misinformation. Meanwhile, we see that on Monday, police fired tear gas at students attempting to march from a university campus toward Antananarivo's city center, defying a dusk to dawn curfew imposed last week. The protest highlights a shift toward globally connected activism, with Malagasy demonstrators waving flags modeled on Nepal's protest symbols and also coordinating through online networks, similar to Kenya's recent anti-tax campaigns. For Rajoelina, a former coup leader who first seized power in 2009 and secured re-election in a disputed 2023 vote, the dissolution of his government is a high-stakes, maybe a gamble, to reassert control, as we see, whether it can contain the anger of a mobilized youth population who remains uncertain concerning the situation of their country. Now with this, we head over to the editorial with Star Smart.
It's another year and another Independence Day for a people at war. Once again, the time has come for Ambazonians across the globe to unite and celebrate their independence on October 1st. A day of pride, hope, and renewed purpose is upon us.
As we mark this significant occasion with cultural representations, dances, military parades from the Amazonian State Army, all eyes will turn to the leader of the revolution.
Fellow Ambazonians, patriotic diasporas, I salute all of you gathered around our flag on this national day, our Independence Day.
This genocidal war declared on us by the 90-year-old dictator Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2017 is raging.
President Samuel Ikome Sako on the eve of Independence Day. Join us on September 30th at 8 p.m. as President Samuel Ikome Sako addresses the nation.
Permit me to say Happy Independence Day to you all, Ambazonians. We all rose as one nation to assert the independence of our beloved country, Ambazonia.
In these trying times, amidst conflict with La République du Cameroon, President Sako's words are expected to spark hope and chart a new direction.
Set your face on the prize. Look onto Boya, the historic, beautiful capital of our great nation. Truth and justice shall prevail.
While the date for the war to end remains uncertain, brace yourselves for a roadmap towards a smarter prosecution of our liberation movement, a vision full of promise and determined leadership. Prepare to be inspired as we honor our journey and look forward to a brighter future.
To remind the world of our genocide and the injustice done to us as a nation by France and the complicit international community. Share our story with passion and courage, knowing that no one feels our pain more than we do, and no one knows our story more than those who have lived it, us. Let us fight as one man.
Tune in live across all multimedia platforms and catch this monumental speech only on your favorite TV channel. Don't miss this pivotal moment. Together, let's reignite the spirit of Ambazonia.
This Independence Day, immerse yourself in the words of our leader. Be part of history in the making.
Point of correction, Gab Ellison, the date of the end of this world is not uncertain. So, studio, you have to edit that. We cannot be moving with uncertainty. I want to bring the Secretary of State for Communications and IT and Barrister Mbesia to talk to us very briefly before we take the diplomatic editorial. Exactly on top of the hour, the President will be addressing the nation. And I would like you all, those who are watching us via our different social media platforms, you keep sharing. We're getting very good signals in sub-Saharan Africa. Dr. Mungwa, you happen to be a key stakeholder, member of government represented in Washington. You're not just witnessing the processes taking place as Ambazonia is paving their way to victory. And so that's why I'm contesting what Gab Ellison is saying there, that why the date of the end of the war is uncertain. No, it is not uncertain. It is soon. I'd like you to talk to us. Give us a very brief resume. I'm going to ask you specific questions in the course of tonight. Just give us a brief resume of whatever explanation that you have there, and that represents the understanding and the significance of tonight. Please talk to us.
Okay. Thank you, Paddy. Fellow Ambazonians, welcome to today's program. As you said, I'm going to be extremely brief. The meeting that took place in Washington, D.C. Represents a footprint for governance. That is governance even beyond our struggle for independence and sovereignty. And what is very important in this meeting today, over the past couple of days, is to demonstrate to Ambazonians that we are here to make a change in the lives of Ambazonians. And before I get there, let me show you, or let me just explain to you what is happening at the home front. When you talk to holo leaders like Joshua Osei, like Akere Muna, like Philomo Yang or Paul Tassong, you begin to wonder what they've been doing over these years to actually demonstrate that politics is about solving the problems of the people. You take the case of Bamenda. I understand that over the past week, we've had a lot of floods and people are suffering. I hear people are drowning. Have you been able to ask the leaders or let the Ambazonians or those who believe that there is some hope from Yaoundé, have they been able to tell you what they are going to do to solve such fundamental issues? And that's where we make a difference, because our meeting here in Washington, D.C. is to actually demonstrate that we are able to produce a footprint for governance. And that governance is actually based on job creation. It's based on public safety, national cohesion, economic growth, a healthy workforce, and an educated workforce. So this is exactly what guided us to sit here in Washington, D.C. and think about the future of Ambazonia. And you notice that I don't think for a very long time we, La République du Cameroon, or any of those political parties that claim to have the voice of our people have been able to do that. And that is the key of the resolutions that we took here and to present to those who participated. And I also want to let Ambazonians know that in course of this discussion, we actually found a lot of experts among us. Very often, when they talk about experts, you think these are foreigners coming from somewhere in order to solve our problems. In the course of this, we actually discovered that we do have the experts among us. And why do I say so? Because the first thing they were able to do is to identify the specific issues that are haunting our communities. And therefore, from that standpoint, when you understand the problems, you've already solved half of it. And from that perspective, we're able to put down policies that will actually guide our people from the present predicament into the future. And in the course of putting these policies together, we incorporated the fact that we have refugees outside the country who have to be resettled back home. And every policy, whether it is town planning, whether it is energy, whether it's education, whether it's mining and industry, we incorporated all those factors by recognizing where we are and where we want to be. So we have a mission and we have a vision. The mission will spell where we are right now, all the inadequacies that we have in our communities or in our towns and cities, and what we are going to do moving forward. Just to give you a few examples as to how these policies were formulated, we had to make sure that in every department, or whether it's a ministerial department or whatever it is, we have to make sure that we have strong leadership and clearly defined roles that keep our policies from being scattered. Administrative systems ensure accountability and create the discipline necessary to sustain momentum. We also had to make sure that our policies are translated into tangible, practical mechanisms, whether through infrastructure, technology, or logistical framework. These controls are what turns strategy into daily reality. We also had to look into regulatory mechanisms, rules and standards that keep everybody aligned. Without regulation, even the best ideas fall prey to inconsistency and abuse. So regulatory mechanisms protect fairness, enforce quality, and uphold credibility. Fourth, we had to look about financial structures. Policies must be backed by money that sustains them. And creative financial models, from diaspora contribution to public-private partnerships, provide the resources necessary or needed for continuity. And of course, we had to look into case studies, because there are lots of things that have happened around the world that may be similar to our case. So we use case studies to help us so that we don't walk blindly. So in each of these areas, we're able to look at case studies, look at what works and what did not work, and to look through them, hopefully in the future, to be able to put them together to provide something that is sustainable. So these are just the highlights of what we did. And that is exactly why we say we are looking beyond the struggle. And this footprint will be published at the time that we find necessary. And as I just said, look at the case of Bamenda. Look at this case of Victoria. We've had floods and we've had landslides. People have been killed. Never has the government, none of these political parties have actually stood out to say that this is what we have for the Ambazonians. All they've been trying to do is to gain power. These are people who have no clue as to what can be done to help our people. People are dying every day on our roads. Nobody has talked about public safety. Nobody has talked about administrative controls. Nobody has talked about engineering controls. And you begin to wonder whether they're all there for themselves and their families, or they're there for the people. This is a government. The government of Dr. Samuel Ikomisako is there to provide solutions for our daily existence. And that's why we were here in Washington, D.C. Over to you.
That's amazing there, Dr. Mungwa. Barrister Mbisi, I'm coming to you right now. There's so many questions I have for you people this evening. And we have till midnight from the president's speech and after the speech to break down these things, the speech and everything. Barrister Mbisi, we did not just get into the newsroom to tell you what is happening around the world idly. I know you're always with the newsroom to make some analysis. But today we thought it was very strategic. We wanted to show the world that the war in Amazonia is a war that is within a cosmos of wars. And the trajectory in the East is changing. Global politics is changing. Why La République du Cameroon is trying to organize an illegal election. The government of Amazonia is hosting stakeholders in Washington, D.C. to pave a way for the nation as we fight the war. From a legal standpoint, what would you say today is representing to Amazonia? Vice Ambassador, please.
Thank you for having me and for giving me this opportunity to explain in legal and political terms what went on in Washington, D.C. Now, Dr. explained to why are we fighting? Well, someone earlier in the year, 1959-60, told the world, so cause Cameroon was too small, incapable of doing anything. And what Dr. Mongwa just said, well, that led us into this trouble. We are that many of there. We are capable, if not more than more this independence. Big message. So, at the end of the day, we were and still capable of running affairs. In a smaller box, we are holding this meeting, not forget something going on in Cameroon, called elections. Telling them, October, whoever becomes the president in a shape that made a powerful partner in this for the liberation, in this struggle for the nation. So that's the message that we're sending to the world and to Cameroon. But then let us come back to what we have just read, the resolutions. Important for us because what's amongst us, what people who don't understand what went on, for them to understand why and how we did it. Let us be reminded that this conference was called Ambazonia's Strategic Constituent Assembly. It was strategic because we're going to deal with things strategically. It was constituent because we're going to visit the Constitution and add or subtract what we thought was necessary to move ahead the revolution. And in that light, just of being constituent, two major things have listed, several. Let me just take two that are featured in this resolution, in the resolutions. One of the things that we find there is our resolve to financially do something for whoever sits in the office of the president, publicly, not privately. That has been absent. Even something has been done, it has not been done officially. It is important for us to know that who sits there as the president of this country to be must not be a street beggar, must be somebody who shall be left and right. And so we realize, learning from the past, that without that financial provision, people have volunteered, and they did it, some with very good intentions, but others didn't have the same intentions. Others had the thing that we forgot, that there's a saying in English that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Some of the people who were doing those things were the ones paying the piper. They thought they could dictate of the government. They were, in my own words, hostage takers. They wanted to take the government, and in particular the president, hostage, to do their will. Will no longer support him. The people who are still there to tell you, if you don't do our will, do it in public. We'll tell the world that you eat thanks to us. We'll tell the world that if you cross your wife and children, it is because we have been charitable to you. No, we thought that should end publicly. But by ending that, we want to remind Ambazonians at this point, there is no tax levied on Ambazonians. Whatever doing financially is pocket contribution. We're not selling gold, we're not selling oil, we're contributing to pocket. So for those who want to criticize, go where money, do with it, no question asked. That's the send there to them by this. And one that is very, very important, which has been read, we should understand what it means. Said that the laws of Cameroon passed since 1961, October 1st, are binding on us. Take note, they are not binding on us. What do we mean by that? We simply mean that we're and we take up a subject. When we reference to what he has done for the past 40, 60 years that have occupied the place. Let us take, for example, chieftaincy. There, what chieftaincy in crisis? I want to pass a law on chieftaincy. We're not going to make reference to what Atangaji has been doing. The presidential decrees of 1976-77 categorizing chiefs. That's an event for us. Look at that when we do what we want to do. So the laws are there. They are being enforced illegally on us. We're reminding them that once in Bolivia, we should have the option to do what we want. We stand in whatever thing they did for good or for bad. That is the essence of that. And so going forward, assisting is strategic. There are things they mentioned there. We did not intend this conference of 3 days to everything. We intended to visit what we thought was not going well. We intended to do some corrections and then to add some strategy. And on that strategy again, the Constitution. Our Constitution, orders in council, provided, for example, for the Ministry of Affairs, what a milestone. Affair deals with. I realize that at this stage and in data of development, it is so difficult, so difficult for one person to stay as a secretary of foreign affairs, maybe in London, or dealing with the government, a government in exile, or somewhere in Paris, or somewhere in Berlin, and then do diplomacy worldwide. No, we thought that we should revisit stuff and regionalize it. If you are found in the European region, in China, function can be given to you to do diplomacy there. And of course, report to the Central Foreign Affairs Secretary. So those are the areas of strategic
That's okay. And the sound was coming from Washington, where the noise was coming from Washington, where Dr. Munga is. I've been able to take care of that. It's okay. It's a little bit challenging for them to manage their sound. Dr. Munga just said some very important things that I would like him again to comment, but before he does that, we want to talk about diplomacy. Tomorrow is the Independence Day of Ambazonia, and as we speak, 3 of our comrades will be in court tomorrow. Extraordinarily, after 2 years, they'll be in court tomorrow. So we want to talk about government diplomacy right now, and we'll be getting back into the newsroom as I speak to you. Star Smart has prepared for us an editorial that has to do with diplomacy. So we'll be transitioning into the newsroom at this given moment. To get to know about that, we also would have to examine some reports that are coming on the field. I want to know if the newsroom is ready to bring to us this editorial. Can I see Star Smart on the screen, please? I want to be sure if they're ready to get that, and we'll be back right after that.
Day. A date the colonial regime has desperately tried to erase from history. Yet Ambazonians are not a people of amnesia. They remember the stolen independence of 1961, the betrayal of union, and the decades of marginalization that followed. Every October 1st is both a day of mourning and of renewed resolve. A reminder that the dreams of a free and sovereign Amazonia lives on despite the repression of La République du Cameroon. Now, this year's commemoration comes at a defining moment. Ambazonia's liberation movement stands at a potential inflection. An inflection point as the Strategic Constituent Assembly, the ASCA in Washington, draws to a close. The movement's diplomatic posture, its internal governance framework, and its symbolic legal struggles converge. The outcomes of these processes could reshape the struggles for years to come. Taking a deeper look at Ambazonia diplomacy, we see that under the leadership of President Samuel Ikome Sako, Ambazonia has sought to strengthen both its internal structures and its external engagement. In the first quarter of this year, the government made notable strides in diplomacy, defense, and advocacy. The launch of the federal draft campaign raised tens of thousands of dollars in a matter of hours. Money now channeled directly into operations at home and missions abroad. Now, at the diplomatic level, the push for accountability at the International Criminal Court has advanced, with investigators now actively probing human rights violations by the forces of La République du Cameroon. In the United States, Amazonian leadership has secured renewed attention on the plight of refugees, ensuring the deportation schemes against asylum seekers are countered through proactive engagement with President Trump's administration. Now, beyond advocacy, President Ikome Samuel Sako, his government has worked to reduce infighting amongst defense forces, implementing new financial policies that cut off middlemen and send resources directly to fighters. On the battlefield, the Amazonian State Army has recorded victories, seizing weapons and deploying new defense systems developed by Amazonia ingenuity. Diplomatically, militarily, and administratively, the movement continues to project both resilience and state-like coordination. Now, for the Kansas City tree, we see that while Amazonians mark Independence Day in the homeland and the diaspora as they prepare to, all eyes will also turn to Kansas City, Missouri, where the so-called Kansas City 3 Amazonian activists indicted on charges of providing support to the liberation struggle will have to appear in court on Independence Day, October 1st. For Amazonians, this case is not merely about 3 individuals. It represents a broader attempt to criminalize the diaspora's role in sustaining the struggle. President Samuel Ikome Sako has called on Amazonians in the United States to show up in Kansas City with their flags, transforming the courtroom into a stage of resistance and solidarity. The case is politically charged. Supporters argue the indictments expose how far the colonial regime's influence has reached, painting Amazonian fighters for survival as criminals, while ignoring the atrocities committed by the La République forces. October 1st appearance is therefore symbolic, a test of unity, a test of visibility, and the resolve of a people determined not to be silent even on foreign soil. It is no wonder why the president advised Amazonians to be present with their flags. Now, as Amazonians abroad prepare to rally in Kansas City, the leadership has been gathered in Washington for the Amazonia Strategic Constituent Assembly, the ASCA. The 3-day session, concluding today, has been nothing short of historic. We see that the Assembly deliberated on the kind of society that Amazonia seeks to build. Resolutions were debated and voted upon, including a notion on dual citizenship, the declaration that all laws imposed by La République since 1961 are null and void, and a commitment to define citizenship criteria for Amazonians. Presentations on healthcare, civil society, and cultural identity enriched the vision of a future Amazonian nation built on integrity, education, accountability, and inclusiveness. Importantly, the Assembly reaffirmed confidence in Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, his leadership, accepting the renewed mandate. He reminded the people, don't deprive me of support. He said, don't deprive me of support and expect results. Logical and factual statements were made. Now, this was a call not just for unity, but for the practical commitment of Amazonians to resource and sustain the liberation project. Now, questions arises as the ASCA closes. Several questions remain on the forefront of the liberation agenda. Like, how will the resolutions of Washington be translated into practical governance structures on the ground? And what timeline will guide the shift from motions and declarations to functioning institutions of state? How will Amazonia define citizenship in a way that balances inclusivity with loyalty? What role will the diaspora play in shaping law and governance? Most importantly, how can these institutions, the institutional frameworks, be leveraged diplomatically to gain recognition, build alliances, and compel international community to act? The expectations are high. Amazonians hope that the ASCA has laid the foundations of a new political order that consolidates the struggle, energizes the grassroots, and presents to the world not just a movement of resistance, but a nation in waiting. Amazonia today is at a crossroad. Diplomacy is advancing but constrained. The Kansas City case has turned into a stage for international solidarity. The ASCA has reimagined governance and reaffirmed leadership. Together, these threads weave a narrative of a people refusing erasure, reclaiming their voice, and building a framework for self-determination. On October 1st, Amazonians will not just remember Independence Day, they will reassert it. The colonial regime may attempt to erase the past, but Amazonians, firm in memory and resolve, insist on writing its own future. With that, we'll hand the baton back over to you, Mr. Tar.
That was simply amazing. I'm sure when you were doing that, Dr. Mungwa shaking his head and asking, did you capture all of the That's amazing. Congratulations on the news for your consistent growth in mastering and communicating these untold stories to the world. You're suddenly becoming a gem, not just in the Cameroons, but in Africa. Dr. Mungwa, you've heard so, and there's a lot for you to talk or to relay from that editorial coming there from Star Smart. Please talk to us.
Yes, thank you, Paddy. And well, you have to understand that what we did here in Washington, D.C. was the government's position. We want to establish a framework or a baseline from which to work, which obviously some of it will have to go through Parliament for ratification. So whether it comes to citizenship, the definition of who is an indigenous settler or a legal resident. And one thing we also have to remember is that they have never defined our citizenship ever since we got independence. We have literally been floating, and anybody, whether they're of Southern Cameroon or not, have been incorporated into us right from independence. And even some of the political parties were actually funded by people who in normal circumstances might not actually be considered a citizen. So we have to make a very clear demarcation, because it's only when we identify ourselves shall we be able to run a government for economic growth. Because when you have people with dual how do I put it, they may be Southern Cameroonian, but they believe in a different system, in a different government. It becomes extremely difficult for us to govern. So all these issues must be defined, and obviously when it goes through Parliament, that will be clarified and brought into law. We also talked, as you know, from what the lady talked about, we talked about the Kansas City 3. And this is one area where we really have to congratulate or thank the president, because he literally did it single-handedly. And if you remember, from all that has been happening, when our comrades were taken to jail, they were forcing them to take a plea bargain. And I would like to thank the families of our detainees who actually were very calm and did not push them to do things that will actually jeopardize the future, not only of their families, but of course the future of the revolution. The fact that they pushed away from taking a plea bargain has made a remarkable difference, possibly as to the outcome. And remember, even this year, they were trying to renegotiate for the trial to be pushed into 2026, prolonging it to make sure that they get frustrated and they may come to a plea bargain. Why a plea bargain? Because the prosecutor did not have a case, and that was the only way to push it
in the direction of La République du Cameroon. So by pushing it forward to October the 1st, that is tomorrow, is actually a signal that something may actually be happening. Let's just keep our fingers crossed, because it's given them an opportunity to probably present their case to the public and to see how the legal system is going to look into it and what direction that may follow after that. So I'd like to just bring that to the knowledge of Ambazonians and those who are interested in what is happening in Missouri. And so I think that's what is extremely important to us. And when we talk about diplomacy, I think in the resolution, we talked about the president having the right to name or people who will represent the government, which makes sense actually, because in every government is the president that nominates ambassadors. So it's not a matter of election, because I realize that a lot of people who are misconstrued the concept of democracy, they think that everything must be elected. But when it comes to representing our country overseas, I think it's the right of the president to determine those who are fit enough to represent our position. And that will actually solve a major problem, which in the past we've sort of allocated a person to do the job. And unfortunately, we've seen what has become of such people. So we're going to break it up and to make sure that we have a lot of backup. So it's not a single line of failure or single point of failure, put in engineering terms. We are going to have a redundancy, which means that there will be several people who will have the power to actually execute those assignments. And more will be coming from the president himself. I don't have the liberty to go into detail as to some of the changes that have already been announced that will take place within the cabinet. So these are the three things that I would like to put emphasis on. Unless you have additional questions to ask me, I'll be very happy to respond.
There's a lot of questions that both of you will take, but because of time, and we have something to cover before Barrister Mbesia speak. Exactly in the next 15 minutes, the president will be addressing the nation. We're not going to exceed that time. Please, I'm calling on all those who are with you in Washington to get ready to go to our platforms. We have it streamed on all of our platforms, from our website to YouTube to Facebook and on satellite. But unfortunately, mostly people in Yaoundé, Douala, and different parts of Africa will be watching, because strategically, especially in the hinterlands and in Bamenda, as we speak, we're getting reports that Cameroon has switched them electricity because they don't want them to watch the speech. But we went ahead of them because the president's speech has already been in many different formats. We are streaming on different platforms. And we would like those in the diaspora, once we release the audio versions of the president's speech, do endeavor to send this to your family members, because the word must be heard. Interestingly, as we speak right now, I'm sure Ania will be giving us details to that. At about 3 p.m., trucks of military of colonial military were seen being dispatched from La République du Cameroon to combat the ASCA. So this is an intelligence information. Mayor Kari and your team should take note. I know you are working on that, but this is intelligence. And we are told that they were spotted around my 4 already. Some of the military trucks with combat battalions going in the field. Right now, Dr. Mungwa, you made mention of the difficulties that our people are facing at the home front with bad roads and several things. Onye has an assessment, a very brief assessment of that, some reports that we've just gotten today. We're moving back into the newsroom at this moment to get that information from her. And right after that, we will conclude briefly our analysis and move into the State House to hear what the president has to say. Stay tuned. Onyeka.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tar. Let's start with the report from Bamenda. Mile 6 Malcon in Bamenda were met with a gruesome scene this morning, September 30th, discovering 3 bodies dumped at a local refuse site. The victims, reportedly young men, showed signs of torture and gunshot wounds. According to eyewitnesses, gunshots were heard around 9:45 p.m. last night, preceding the discovery of the bodies early today. While some residents speculate that the victims might be members of the Amazonian State Army brought from somewhere else, there is no official confirmation on their identities or affiliations. Reports suggest that men dressed in colonial military attire were seen bringing the bodies to the scene, where they were executed. This incident echoes previous confrontations between the colonial security forces and Amazonians, not necessarily the Amazonian State Army in Amazonia. And this just goes a long way to show how innocent lives are lost, how young men are killed for no just cause. That's not all. The CPDM's effect in Libya is another report for tonight. Libya residents continues to face significant challenges due to the poor state of roads in the area. Despite 40 years of rule by the colonial Cameroon's People's Democratic Movement, while a recent video showcases the daily struggles of transporting goods to and from Disjang, the nearest major town. The footage shows bikers navigating the rugged stretch linking Menji to Waben via Bisali and Bichati, a proof to the lack of investment in road infrastructure. At this point, to point and wait and remind Amazonians of a report that we gave last week, where cows were used as a means of transportation. Just last week. Now, this discontent comes as in-house leave Minister Paul Tatsang, the area's top-ranking colonial government official and CPDM permanent divisional delegation for Libya, recently campaigned for another mandate for President Paul Biya, citing numerous achievements in the county. However, the absence of paved roads in Libya since its creation in 1992 raises questions about the colonial government's commitment to development. Libya's roads remain unpaved, hindering transportation and economic growth. Despite CPDM's 40-year rule, the county lacks a basic infrastructure, affecting residents' quality of life. Residents are demanding better infrastructure and improved living standards. Libya residents are expecting change and demanding that the colonial government deliver on its promises. The question is, will it deliver? Is Libya the only county that has bad roads? Of course, your answer is as good as mine. Anyways, Mr. Char, due to the time constraint, we won't be able to take all of the very sad reports that are coming in from the home front. But hopefully, when the president is done, if we still have time, we'll take some of the reports that are coming in from the home front. But for now, I'm sure Barrister Mbase here and of course Dr. Mungwa would want to react to this, especially the fact that even cows that should be meant for eating has become a mode of transportation. Mr. Ta.
I love the report because Barrister Mbase is from Libya. I don't have anything to say, Barrister Mbase. The floor is yours. That's part awesome. I'm sure he took one of those bikes that we are seeing there, going to campaign for the octogenarian. Please talk to us.
Well, thank you once more. Then she asked, was BLM the sole area without roads? She said no. But let us deal with the BLM. The BLM has never had any roads. Even that thing you find there, they have never dug there. What is pushing us through? They don't dug roads by the people themselves. Everywhere in the BLM, there is not even a kilometer of road ever constructed by the government from Yaoundé. Not one. And so you find people dig these things with their hands. Have they even expected them to dig a road. No. What they said the most, what they expected the very least, is that the road should be graded. They should cut a gutter for water to run through it so they can ride on their bad roads by themselves. The government has not cut even gutters, they did grading. But if you go to Mr. Potterson's eyes, you probably will give some money to grade left and right. What Potterson will not tell you is where did the money go to if that was graded. Is there any DBLM person who derides innocence, who still believes that something can come Paul Biya? But is it about Paul Biya? Paul Biya came in 1984. What about Hijo before him, from 1961 to 1984, more than 20-something years later? What came out of Yaoundé for the BLM? Zero. That's the reason why I will have to fight. And the BLM is being symbolic. Because the same applies to Kuneku. The same applies to Kambe, Tonga Manto. The same applies to and everywhere else. That's the reason why we fight. And we're telling them on the eve of these elections and at the close of this that at spare don't work intellectually, technical, and financial wise to do jobs, to dig our own roads, to design and build our own schools, to design and build our agricultural centers. That is the message we're sending to Yaoundé. But before I close this segment, let me revisit once more what Dr. Mongwa said on diplomacy. This conference to let the world know and to let our brothers and sisters that this government that we represent believes in diplomacy. But we don't believe publicly. We don't believe in what they call open diplomacy. Because we don't have the power to stop them. Those who want to do it, the policy of this government. This government is in diplomacy that is done behind the screens, and the results are announced publicly. And so we believe those people go to demonstrate. Demonstrations have value, but demonstrations are things like racism in short. Public activism, diplomacy history. So, but those who want to go and call it, go down the streets and army to show you marching bombing palace or to the White House, wherever, to show they are going to meet the president of the States or the prime minister of the UK, publicly being carried there in the name of diplomacy. So far, that's good for you. But this government does not endorse that. Why? As I said earlier, and Dr. Mungo has confirmed, the government has been largest to decentralize this technical job of doing it behind the screens, and we knowing what has been done from the results that we obtain. That, in fact, is what is diplomacy. And as you said, the Kansas City 3 are coming to trial, or whatever call it, tomorrow. You can hit that and say diplomatic role. We needed to do screens. We have done all what we need to do. I will continue it in other cases. If the case does not end tomorrow, we'll continue to do in the same case. So, over to you. Again and again. We have said their laws are not binding on us. We have not said that they are not binding. The resolution says they are not binding, and these are the issues that we will raise them. We will like pass our own laws, enforce them without regard to what they have been doing. Over to you.
Okay, yeah, very exceptionally, Dr. Mungo, I know you have something to say. You have about 2 minutes to do that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Paddy. There's something that I really want to let Ambazonians understand. The strength of the government of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon. We are not only here for a political fight. Most of the revolutions throughout the world, it's always been a political fight. But there's one thing that they always lose track of, which is the economic empowerment. They can get to power, but they don't know what to do with the economy. And that's where we have a new wave of colonization. But one of the things that we were able to demonstrate within the government of Dr. Samuel Kumasako is that not only do we have that political will to fight, we also have the economic knowledge to grow our economy. That is very important. We have the technical know-how within the government and within Amazonia that will lead us into a very huge economic growth once we conquer our territory, because we have a blueprint for a new economy. And as I said earlier, this economy is based on job creation, because if you don't create jobs, there's no way that you can appease the population. And you can see right now what is happening. You see the government, they have no solution for anything. All is about rhetoric, saying things that they have never been able to accomplish in 40 years. You can ask Joshua Oshie, ever since he came to power, even his predecessor, what have they actually presented to Ambazonians as a solution to their daily predicament? What has the so-called central government of Paul Biya, what have they submitted, provided to prove to the Ambazonians that they are going to take care of their livelihood? Think about the so-called the ring road. Since the 70s to today, they've not been able to accomplish it. And yet, they expect Ambazonians to go for elections. This is a it's a no-brainer. We are never going to go for elections, because these elections will only make us become slaves to a regime that never produces. So I once more reiterate that the government of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia under Dr. Samuel Kumasako has as its primary objectives job creation, public safety, national cohesion, economic growth, a healthy workforce, and an educated workforce. And when we talk about educated workforce, it's not just about raising kids or educating them to be productive. Also means those who missed the opportunity to educate as a result of this revolution, who may be much older than what you expect them to be in terms of their level of comprehension. We are going to incorporate them, and they will be able to be productive. And that's the only way we can drive this economy. So we're aware of the challenges that we face, and we are here to work to make sure that we get a prosperous country. Over to you.
That's amazing. I would like you people to stay at the background. We are not getting you out of our studio because we're going to be having these conversations till midnight. For all of those who are watching us at the home front in Sub-Saharan Africa, Facebook and YouTube, we're going off now. We'll be back in 90 seconds exclusively to have the president's speech. But I just want to say something. If the number of deaths that Undaunted has recorded for the past 30 days cannot advise you that it is not safe to participate in any election, then maybe the angels in heaven will talk to you when you know more. As I speak to you right now, this broadcast is officially ending now. For those of you who are watching and listening at the home front now,